after, so you know, Trey, that there's going to be this flash of light coming that the angels have talked about extensively, which is going to be, it's going to be a huge influx of light to the planet in one big like solar energy that's coming. It'll be the moment we look back on and say that is the moment that everything changed. And they've said when we go through this that we will no longer have karma in the same way that we've had. We will shift to, as long as we turn into the light, we will move into a dharmic experience. So. Hi, I'm Ann Tucker, and I'm on Your Superior Self.
And Tucker, I had to have you back, girlfriend. You are so amazing. I truly enjoyed our conversation the first time.
Thank you so
Especially,
much.
yeah, especially the part where we talked about being a centaur. I think we blew up the internet.
It's not a story I share very often.
Oh, it's so fascinating though. But that's why I love having conversations with you, because like like I get the gold from you, and
Thank you.
so thank you. I know it's early and I know you're drinking your coffee slowly and sliding into this conversation, but thank you.
Yeah, I know. It's great. It's great. I was really looking forward to the conversation. You do ask great questions. You really do.
I just love your energy. So I really wanted to dive deep into your story and really tap back into that, because I think I'm just truly like fascinated by the process of you connecting with angels and then just the intelligence that they are. And I've really been diving deep into the literature surrounding like programming and things that enable us to create our realities the way that we desire, essentially.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to hit on that a little bit, as far as like what the angels' guidance is and how we can reprogram our minds to experience the realities of our desires. But first, I don't know if I asked you this in the previous interview. How do you experience everyday reality?
Oh, that's a great question. So I guess, I mean, it's the funny thing about that is that we only know what we are. We see the world through our own eyes, and we assume everybody else has the same experience that we do. And it was a really interesting thing when I was doing my I have this body of work called Soul Types, where I figured out that there are 7 different soul types, and we have 7 different forms of manifestation. We have 7 different ways of problem solving, and we all think, and it relates to our thought process. It relates to how we think about the world, and how it's almost as if divine energy comes through you, and you are a particular shape, and you mold that divine energy into the shape that is you. I always joke that it's like the Play-Doh and extruder, the Play-Doh factory, and and the Play-Doh comes through you, and you shape it as it comes through you. And we think that our way of doing it is how everybody does it, because we can only see inside our own heads, at least now, right at this stage of consciousness. We can only see inside our own perspective. So my way of seeing the world is like the way I think everybody does, but I know it's not. I know that my way is unique to me. So, I mean, I would say um, that as I have become more open, as the connection with the angels has changed, the way that it infiltrates my daily life, that is interesting and different. That I'm extremely conscious of my own healing journey. I'm very, very conscious of all of life showing me myself. I'm always very conscious and it's I've gotten to a place where I'm able to stay, even when I'm triggered, able to stay in the observer and notice, oh, this is me. This thing that's happening around me is me. Why am I triggered right now? What is it bringing up for me? So that's why I navigate. I mean, really, it's the game of life. It is understanding, like, this whole parade that's happening, it will use the energies. Like, we just got through a huge full moon. I had a big thing come up, for the full moon. And so then I when that happens, I allow it to come up. I realized I still had like a little bit of me that I was kind of holding back, that was wounded from past relationships where I had felt burnt. I actually had a specific dream where I had a suitcase with 2 pieces of burnt metal in them. And a suitcase is never good in a dream. It's like, oh, there's some baggage. And it was showing me this is just another little layer. It's like, well, are you really, is your heart really all the way open? Are you really in flow? And the funny thing about that is, as I saw that and saw that in the dream, I recognized, oh yeah, there is that little part of me that I hold back. But the logic part of me didn't want to set that suitcase down. I was like, no, I'm perfectly happy keeping myself safe. I'm perfectly happy. I did not in any way want to open up that piece of me. But the heart of me, I know from having done so much healing work, I know that if I do, I will be freer. And it is so against our, like the way that we are, what we would feel in our heart. We feel, no, I'm going to be way safer if I stay behind this brick wall, right? Of course, right? The brick wall is right there. I'll be way safer behind here. But your heart knows if you step out from behind all the brick wall is you feeling your wounding all the time. That's all it is. All of our protections, all they are is us swimming in our wounds. And it's not protection at all. It's just us feeling like crud. And so if we are willing to set them down, what happens is we flow more energy, we flow more light. And the more light we hold, the more open we are, the safer we are, because the more flow you have, it's almost like if you fill your own self with light, nothing else can get in. So it's totally counterintuitive. So that, I would say, is the biggest shift in my own perspective of life. Is like, I have the one piece of it, which is the logic part, which is, who am I as an embodied soul, as a manifester, as a problem solver? My perspective is unique. But I have this other big piece, which is, who am I on the journey of life? Understanding that everything I encounter is here to show me myself, and then doing my best to overcome my own desires to stay safe, my own fears, and to recognize if I'm courageous enough, if I can find the courage to step out from behind the brick walls, then what I find is, it's like the more vulnerable, it's so counterintuitive, the more vulnerable you are, the happier, the better, the stronger you are. It is like opening the valve to light. Yeah.
So beautiful. Oh, I love it. See, I can't even tell that it's early morning over there, right? Like, you're on fire already. Um, so the healing process, right? Like, when I look at my physical body and I have an injury, I can see slowly the regeneration of the cells and the scarring healing. However, at an energetic level, do they ever talk about like what takes place during the healing process? Is it a release, a cathartic release of that energy? Like, do they ever speak to what that process looks like energetically as far as healing?
Yeah. So there's so many different types of healing, and the body is our healing partner. Like, the body works with us, and the body will hold. Like, if we have issues that we're not facing, the body will, or say, for example, we had trauma in our past or emotions in our past that we did not want to feel, which is so common. Just like me and my brick wall, right? There was certain things I was afraid to feel again. And so I would take that stuff and stuff it down. And so the body says, oh, okay, you want me to hang on to this for you? Fine. I will encapsulate this into some part of your organ or your body. And so then it manifests so that we can deal with it physically. If we do not deal with it emotionally, the body will try to help us by having us deal with it physically, because the whole journey here is about trying to understand ourselves, trying to work through our stuff. So the body will help us. Sometimes the body will take it's something like that and even encapsulate it into a tumor that can be surgically removed. So sometimes it manifests as dis-ease or disease in the body. But what's interesting is that the angels recently spoke about, like, what's going to happen after. So, Trey, there's going to be this flash of light coming that the angels have talked about extensively, which is going to be, it's going to be a huge influx of light to the planet in one big, like, solar energy that's coming. It'll be the moment we look back on and say that is the moment that everything changed. And they've said, when we go through this, that we will no longer have karma in the same way that we've had. We will shift to, as long as we turn into the light, we will move into a dharmic experience. So what does that mean for the dis-ease that we're holding in our body? Like, is it, and so they did a whole message about this recently, about healing. Will the body heal when we go through this consciousness shift? And what they said was that the body renews itself. And they said, yes, once we move out of this context, this 3D reality where the body is a participant in us experiencing our karma, and we move into the dharmic experience where we're no longer experiencing ourselves in the same way, then the body will slowly, and they said it will depend on the renewal rate of the various, they said, for example, that the tongue renews itself very, very quickly, but certain organs renew themselves much slower. So your tongue might heal. If you had like a scar on your tongue, boom, it might heal within 2 weeks, but an organ might take 6 months. So it's almost like, how long does it take for the cells to turn over? So So that is super interesting yeah, in terms of if you have and it doesn't mean that we should just like sit on our laurels and then wait for the light to come and cure us. Like we're meant to use this time now. Like if you've got body issues going on now, like use them, use them, use them, use them. Like go into that pain, go into that acceptance of the pain. Like it's about if you've got something going on surgically and you're trying to heal, go into the pain and like don't fight it, don't resist it, don't it's like love it, accept it, open to it, let that come up, let it surface. It's about relaxing the body into whatever experience you're having, and that will help you to heal faster.
What do they say about instantaneous miracle healings? Like, what is that? Is that like instantaneous, like light coming into the body? Like, what do they say about that? Like
um
somebody who has cancer, stage 4 cancer, and then they go to maybe a healer, organic healer, or maybe do a modality like Joe Dispenza's work or something like that, right? And they
yeah.
have this energetic field, they encapsulate inside of that, and next thing you know, people who are blind are seeing, people that are in a wheelchair can walk. Like, what do they talk about the process, or what is the mechanism that creates that miracle healing?
Yeah, so it can happen in a couple of different ways. One of the ways is if, and I've done this before, it was interesting, but the challenge is holding it. So for example, when my dad was alive, he had a really bad knee. His knee was really, really painful, and he needed surgery, but he hadn't had it yet. And so I reached into, and I actually pulled up his knee from the past. And most people will reach into the future and pull sort of say there's a place in your timeline where you've healed that particular issue. And then you can pull that into the present moment and replace the current energetically, replace that particular, replace the current with the future, or replace the current with the past. So I reached into his past, his youthful knee, and I put it on top of the current knee. And I could see it in there, and I could see, but this is part of my, everybody's built differently, everybody heals differently. This worked for me. And everybody has to respect their own way of working with energy. But I could see that it settled in there. I could see that he accepted it. It was good. And the knee pain went away. And it was great for like 6 months. And then all of a sudden he started complaining about pain again. And I went back in and I looked and I saw the knee I had put in was flailing around like he'd rejected it. He'd pushed it out. And the old knee, the painful knee was back. And I kept stuffing and stuffing. I could not get him, like he'd rejected it. I couldn't get it to go back in. So he had not yet released the karma, what his body was trying to do to help him heal. He had not yet worked through that. So he couldn't hold the healing. So it's one thing to work on, okay, we're just gonna kind of go around or heal a particular symptom, but you got to heal the core issue. So it's always going to be about accepting ourselves or accepting some piece of ourselves. Every bit of karma is just a judgment we've made against ourselves. So say that you have a judgment that is that's going to relate to your vision, and it's going to be a thing of saying, well, okay, I was unwilling to see something difficult in a past life, so this time I'm going to make myself blind. I'm going to give myself vision issues because I was unwilling to see something in a past life, or because I saw something with my eyes that was incredibly painful, and so I'm going to be blind, or I'm going to have vision issues. And so you're going to experiment or learn this about yourself in this life, that it's hard to see, and you're going to try to work through the process of it being hard to see. Well, then you could go into a healing process where you heal that underlying regret, that underlying wish that you had done it differently, that desire to wish I had seen that, I wish I had, whatever it was. You heal that, and then boom, the physical manifestation can heal right away. So, and I have seen that happen. So
Mhm.
it just depends on what's going on with the body, but it's almost always the process of allowing and accepting ourselves. It's about integrating the all parts of ourself. And that's what self-love is. It's understanding that every little moment of your life is like a different you. And so you'll have all these moments from your childhood, you'll have them from past lives that are all roaming around in there. And some of them are going to be connected to specific wounds. And if you can find those and work through them, then those wounds will release.
Sure. So,
Yeah.
oh man, all right. So here's a tough question, right? So, what I'm hearing is that the beliefs in our subconscious are the things that are creating either disease or limiting us from creating our desires, right? And so that
Yeah.
1% of us, that 1% of our conscious awake awareness right now, like in this everyday reality, thinks that we can control that, however, or try to create something, and we cannot because of the belief systems in the subconscious.
Mm.
which we can't see because it's like, obviously we have to do different things to get into these different non-ordinary states of consciousness to access them.
Yeah.
So my question is now, like, what is the difference between do the angels have like a conscious unconscious? Are they susceptible to programs and belief systems? Like, how do they does that limit their consciousness? And these are just like 1,000 questions that I have after hearing that, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, great question. So the angels are really, really different from us, that they do not have ego in the way that we have ego. And ego is not bad. Ego is will. Like we need ego. It's almost like part of our polarity while we're embodied. It helps us to manifest. It creates the individual desire, which is like the impetus for beginnings. We have to have ego. It's just we don't want it to be, we don't want ego to rule us, right? It's about balancing ourselves. But angels, they are at a very different frequency from us, but they're not orchestrated or put together in the same way. They can create, but they are what they call the light of the divine, and we are the spark of the divine. So they are divine awareness. So wherever they put that awareness, they draw the attention of the universe, and that's how they can manifest and create. And that's why we think of angels as messengers. It's not because we give them a piece of, a letter and they mail it and take it somewhere. We say, you say a prayer to the angels or you speak to the angels, they put their awareness on you and it pulls the awareness or the energy of the universe to you. And that's how your prayers get answered. But we carry the spark of the divine. And what that means is that we are, and the angels described this to me recently, that we are like a doorway through which energy comes. And when it comes through us, we transform it and it becomes us. In other words, we are constantly creating our reality from inside of us in the same way that source does. Source creates itself, right? Into the world, into the universe. We create ourselves into our reality. And angels don't do that. Angels exist in a reality, and they can create within that reality, but that reality doesn't move through them and become them. So they
Hmm.
don't, and that part of that is our will, is our identity, is all these things of who we are, it's our thoughts, our beliefs, so they don't have any of that. So angels can be at different frequencies. Angels, you can have angels that are at different stages of their own journey because they have a journey as well. But it's very different from ours. They don't have the same range of emotions that we do. Like we go into the deep, deep, deep depth of the depth when we're in human form. We go into these and but that's part of the design. Like we're meant to have these low feelings, these low emotions, these low experiences. As a matter of fact, when people choose a journey for themselves in a life that's an incredibly traumatic journey, when bad things happen to people, those are in the oddest way, those are incredible blessings. Because what happens is when we have those dark feelings, we go into those feelings, it's almost like it stretches, almost like, how if you eat like a huge meal and you're like, oh, my stomach's huge, you feel hugely stretched out. Like that's what it does. It's a heaviness, it's a gravity that stretches our capacity. When we feel the depth of the depth, the deeper we go, it's almost like you're pulling back a slingshot. You pull it back as far as you can pull, right? And the deeper you go, the dark night of the soul that you're in the deep, deep, deep. And then when you let go, then it's like whoosh, then you can go higher than you've ever gone before. So it's a way of bringing our soul to higher and higher heights of our own expression.
Well, last time you talked about how you can take yourself higher into different frequencies to connect with them, right?
Yeah.
And so I wonder, like, what holds us down in density? Is it the trauma? Is it just the physical matter denseness? Like, what disallows us from connecting with them at a conscious level?
Really, it's the only thing in our way is us. That literally, there's nothing else holding us back. It is only our own belief systems. It is only like we may have layers, and we do have layers and layers and layers. Like I've been on my own healing journey for years and years and years and years, and I always find new stuff, but I get better along the way. It's about trying to live with as little friction in your life as you possibly can. How do you move through your life friction free? And so it's a process. So, but that doesn't mean that it's not available to you right now. And it doesn't mean it's not available to you in every moment. That the one of the quickest cheats that I can find to get into frequency with the angels is to go into gratitude, because it's accessible to everybody. If you just sit with yourself, and it doesn't matter if you start out in a crummy mood, say that you just had a fight with someone, you just had someone, honk at you, and you just had this happen and that happen, and you're like, I just need a little help. Sometimes it's hard to get in gratitude. So what you can do, they say the smile drives the happy. If you are just feeling like not good, sit down and just smile to yourself with your eyes closed. And what you will then, just hold it. You might feel like this is the stupidest smile, but you just sit there and smile to yourself. It will gradually loosen things up. The smile will drive the happy. It will help you just, okay, I can let go a little bit. I can like just hold the smile, hold the smile, hold the smile. Then you'll start to know, okay, now I feel I can get into gratitude. So then start contemplating, thinking about things you're grateful for. And go. And the more you do, the higher your vibe goes. And it is our heart is the guide, 100%. It is not the head. The more that we are up here trying to figure it out, the more we are lost. All we got to do is tune in to your feelings. They are like the compass that guide us to where we're trying to go. So it is always guide, like follow your joy. And I don't mean that as in like go become a basket weaver and expect to make $1 million. I mean that as in where is your heart telling you that this is bringing you more love, this is bringing you more expression of yourself, that you feel more fulfilled, go this direction, that direction, follow your heart on every single choice, that it is the guide. And so in terms of trying to feel into those higher experiences, it is start with gratitude and use that as a ladder you are climbing to raise your consciousness. Once you are in gratitude and you're feeling awesome, that's when you try to connect. That's when you're like, okay, speak to me. That's when you say, okay. And speaking comes in lots of different ways. I think it is releasing our expectations about what that's going to feel like. So when people are in my, say, for example, in my peace bathing program, which is my monthly healing program, people have physical experiences of the angels every time. And it's super, super cool, but it is totally different for every person. And the angels speak to them very, very differently. So for some people, it'll be that they will get confirmation because the angels will say something in the session, which is what they dreamt last night, or they will say the exact words they said earlier that morning. So it'll be something like a confirmation that's done in their physical lived experience. Other people, it will be, they will have a physical feeling of the angels in their body. They will feel the angels on them or in their hands or in their body. They'll feel energy moving in their body. There's some people will work with crystals and they'll see the crystals vibrating, where they put them on their knee, or people will have, so it depends on what that person's gifting is. How are they meant to work with? Sometimes it'll be visions. People have these incredible visions of this or that, seeing the angels or seeing what's happening in their own healing. But that's a person who's got their clairvoyance. Some people's clairsentient, they're in the body. Some people clairvoyant, they're going to see it in their third eye. So it's very different depending on the person. So as we are in that space of open, it is almost like think of that moment when you're trying to connect with the angels. Don't put so much importance on it that you're meant to get something in that moment. Just be with them. And then what you'll find is if you just be with them and just imagine that you're not you're not looking for seeking information or guidance, you're just being with them. Then afterwards, that's when the money comes. You come out of it, and that's when you go through your life and you're like, wow, everything's flowing beautifully. I'm getting all the parking spaces and all the green lights. And it's because you spent time with them. So, and then that's when you might get your insights. It'll be like all of a sudden a thought will pop into your head because you're not forcing it. You're not striving for it. So that's what I would suggest. Is just raise your vibe, open to being with them, speak out loud to them. You need to say, you can't just, yes, they can hear your thoughts, but free will. They got to respect your free will. So the contract is you speak it into form and then they can take action. So you must say it out loud. Dear angels, and they're literal. Be super careful what you say. They are extremely literal. So if you say like, this is like one of the funniest things. I was at one of my retreats and at the last day of retreat, we do Q&A where people get to ask the angels questions. And one of the women asked the angels, she was like, what do I need to do to reach, my highest enlightened state? And then at the end of it, she added as a joke, she's like, I'm asking for a friend, as if like, I'm already there. Like, I'm so good. I'm asking for someone else, and she meant it to be funny. And the angels heard, I am asking for a friend. And immediately they say, we are bringing in a friend. And I feel this whoosh and this strange energy that I don't know comes in, and it's one of her guides who's speaking and then starts talking to her. And I had no idea that was coming out of nowhere. And normally it was very unusual. Normally the angels guard that connection. Nothing else gets through, but this guide was pretty special. So anyways, but yeah, super, super, super literal. So just watch what you say. Think about it before you say it. But
Careful
say it
what
out
you wish
loud.
for.
Yeah, speak it out loud, and then they can take action.
Oh, very cool. I love that. You talked about some of the markers along that path of higher frequencies. For you as a channeler, right? Like, as you
Yeah.
raise your vibes, as you raise your frequencies, are you able to tap in? And I don't want to like create a linear like hierarchy of like beings, but like have you connected with higher frequency beings? I mean, who's above the angels, right? Like I guess that's my question.
Yeah, I have recently begun channel. So I will sometimes channel Yeshua, which is like incredible when he comes through. He came through a different retreat. He came in and it was incredible because I swear it was like he was physically, we were meeting in this beautiful yurt, and so it's a round room, you know what I mean? Everybody's sitting around the edges, and everybody felt, and people are sobbing. I mean, it was incredible. And it was like he physically was there in the center of the room. It was the most incredible thing, and spoke to us. And I shared that message on YouTube. It's absolutely, I said part of it anyways, but it's just amazing experience. But so yeah, his vibration is different for sure from the angels, but I wouldn't say he's at a he's different vibration, but there is a vibration that is higher that I recently began channeling, who is the mother of creation. And she
Ooh.
blows me wide open when she comes through. And it took me a while to get used to channeling her, but I started channeling her just about, uh, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. She started coming through, and it took me a little while to understand how to work with her energy. And so she comes through now with the angels. So it's almost like they're holding open the pipe and she comes through. And sometimes she's talking with them. So it's her and them. But the angels told me before they came in, they said, there's a great guide coming.
Mm.
And then right after that, she came through, and she's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's her repeating message from humanity? Is she the one that is giving you like some of these insights on the future? Like, are those angels? Like, what is the mother divine, the mother of all creation? Like, what is her message?
Yeah, when she first started coming through, so she's not the one who's telling me about, like, there was a very specific angel who back in 2020 that I was channeling, and the angel said, there's a new angel that's going to come through to speak with you. And they introduced me to him, and they gave me a visual. They showed me them, and they showed me this other angel next to me. And they said, this is an angel. This is someone you can channel, because he looked different. He was a different color, basically. But they said, this is an angel. He's got a very important message. He's got important messages for you. We want you to allow him to communicate with you. And then right after that, I got like 6 months of like Earth Rift and economy, and it was like all this really hard stuff. But the first thing he said is, you must share this, it will save lives. It was like, you and I, of course I didn't. I'm like, no way, I'm not sharing that. I sat on it for like months, and then finally I got up the nerve to do it. But yeah, but so that was an angel. But the mother of creation, she's all about, like, she's the source of all souls. All souls are born through her. She's like, she works with source is like, it's almost like the idea of a soul, and then it manifests through the body of the mother of creation. So she knows everybody's soul song. She's the energy of renewal. So all things return to her. And she's all about renewal, and the understanding that love is freedom. That why do we have free will? Because that is love. It is the idea of that you have the freedom to become who you are, to express who you are. That's why self-expression is a part of self-love, because it's the freedom to express, to be, to let love flow through you. So if you think of all of energy, light is love, that it is the freedom of that flow. So she's all about, I would say her two key words, renewal and freedom.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you an unanswerable question. So if she's the creator of all souls, like what
Yeah.
exactly is source then, right? I always thought that source was like an awareness or a consciousness. Maybe I don't even know what a soul is anymore at this point, but like, cause I've had so many different conversations with people, but
Yeah.
like I will say that I've had this one meditation where I've had an interaction with the mother divine of who I think the mother divine is in my belief system. And she basically took like the awareness that is everything and like put it into a little ball and breathed into it. And then I had like my awareness in my being. And I thought it was beautiful because like, I really relate to the mother divine. I get in a sense of like, as a man, right? And as I grew up in this reality, there's always this yearning to connect with the mother, like just
Yeah.
to reconnect that love, that nourishment, that connection. And so like I've really been cultivating like a deeper connection with her. And she just I asked her a question. I was like, how was I created? And she just basically had that simple metaphoric like symbol like in my mind, my third eye was just basically like a snowball. Like she just took awareness, made it into a ball and then breathed into it, and that was her essence, and then that was how it was created as a soul. So I'm very curious to hear your answer to that.
Yeah, I would say that's very accurate. That she showed me souls coming out of every part of her body. And then she also showed it as her walking and leaving a trail of stardust. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
walking
wow.
through the like which was amazing. And but it is the combination. It's almost like if it just like with like we know that everything that is true, like the world is like a what's the word I'm looking for? Not a kaleidoscope. It's a um fractal, where you have what's true for our individual bodies is true for the universe. You know, it's true like that the spiral of a shell is the same as the spiral of the universe, that we are created by the union of a mother and a father, of two beings. We have polarity, we have a negative and a positive. It's like we exist at the separation between the two. That's kind of where we exist. We think of ourselves as being in this solid 3D matter when in fact we don't. We almost like we exist at the separation point between energies. We are constantly creating. We just can't see far enough in the distance to know that there's nothing out there yet because we haven't created it. So we are way more just energy than we realize. So the mother creation is she like that in order, it's almost like to birth things, to make things into a physical reality, they come through her and she gives them conceptual form. You know, she gives them, so it's like if you take a soul as a concept, as an idea, as a thought, as a wish, and then it comes into the body, she takes that and it's almost like she digests it and then turns it into a song.
Wow. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
everything keeps just repeating at like a frequency, a vibration, and the
Hmm.
higher in the tone that you get, like, the more experience you have at a different level of consciousness. Like, so I've been, reading a little bit about, just, the Schumann's resonance, the natural, frequency of the earth, how that helps individuals heal at an emotional level, and like how we in society like live a certain type of lifestyle that we've been programmed to live, with all the different socialization, the gender roles, that you have to do this to be successful. And so I feel like that creates a lot of separation, and this allows us to reconnect with mother nature. And so like when we create containers, like the indigenous cultures would go out and have walkabouts or like vision quests, they would submerge themselves in these sacred spaces. And my hypothesis is that they're reconnecting with that resonance of the earth, right?
Yeah.
A certain
Yeah.
frequency. And so they're realigning their frequency to that frequency, which allows them to connect with something greater than themselves and connect with that multidimensional self. Um, so when you're doing that, when you're connecting with the angels, how does that change you? Like the physiological changes that happen in you at a cellular level, like does that just open yourself up to be able to contain more higher frequencies?
Yeah, you're right. It was a massive physical overhaul to be able to channel the angels. And it's been a process of years to do it, to be honest. And it's more all the time. So like when I first started, they took like in the beginning, like when I first started channeling them, it was physically painful. That it would come in and it would felt like it felt, first of all, the shifting of a frequency. We think of higher frequencies that we're going to feel light and airy, but it's like anything. If you're highly pressurized, it's pressure on the body. And it's almost like as you try to move into higher frequencies, everything that is in you that is not in alignment with that higher frequency becomes incredibly heavy. And so it felt like when they came in, it's almost like trying to be sucked into a vacuum. I felt huge pressure on my head, on my neck. It was like a helmet would come down over me to about here. And it physically hurt. And I could only do it for a little while in the beginning until I got acclimated and got used to it. And they worked on me and I released more and it gradually got easier and easier. Now it doesn't hurt at all. Now it's like I feel when they're in, but it's just a gentle, a little buzzy. I know when, and I sense them, I feel them, I know them, they come in, but it doesn't hurt at all anymore. But they also took a period where they worked on my vocal cords and they told me they were going to do it. But then I literally could barely talk for 4 months, where it would be, I could talk for about 20 minutes and then voice was gone. And they were changing my vocal cords so that I could transmit frequencies through my voice so that I could speak and and I could bring energies out that way. And which is really cool because that happens now. And all the healing that I do is they speak the entire time and those energies are all in the messages. And it's and same thing with people who listen to messages on my YouTube channel. They're all embedded with the energies of which is just, it's incredible to me. But I remember I went to a friend of mine had a like a fun gathering, like a psychic salon where everybody went. We were going to like share and talk about what we were learning and different gifts and stuff like that. And one of my friends brought a Healy device, which is it's a healing device that emits frequencies, and you're supposed to, like, you put your hands on these pads and your feet on these pads and you turn it on. And everybody was doing it. I was super curious. I wanted to try it too. And everybody, they would have to turn it up to like, 99 to feel anything. Like it's a very low, very subtle frequency. I got near the thing and it was like putting my finger in a light socket. It physically shocked me. I could barely get near it. And I wanted to do it really bad. And I'm like, no, it hurts too much. She had to turn it down to like 1. And then I could barely tolerate it. And afterwards, I asked the angel, like, what was that? And they're like, yeah, what are you thinking? We just spent months and months acclimating you to angelic frequencies. And now you go try to run man-made frequencies for your body. Like, no, don't do it. It was really funny. But so yeah, they intervened and literally physically shocked me so I wouldn't do it. But yeah, so I am definitely physically changed from, and when I start, like when they change, they never let me sit on my laurels. When I finally get good at what they want me to do, when I'm like, hey, I got this, this is good, I know what I'm doing, they're like, okay, great, now we're going to change it. So so they're always pushing me, and every time they push me to grow, it's physically exhausting. It will knock me out. So I have to manage my energy. So I do a ton of stuff to manage my energy. I mean, massive lifestyle changes to bring more energy into my body to be able to handle the energies that they want to run through me. So for example, I moved to basically a farm. I grow my own vegetables. I never drink. I know I don't eat gluten or any kind of vegan. I'm, you know what I mean? Like everything I can think of. When they're shifting me, I will have to do things like I will go intermittent fasting because I can rest my digestive system. I'll go 16-8. So I'll, skip for 16, eat for 8. So that, and then that resting period gives me more energy so that I can then handle. And so this will happen. Like, for example, if I'm leading a new program right now, I'm doing a program that's part of my soul convergence program. The culmination of soul convergence, which is my deep trauma healing program, is activating the gifts. So people work through this process to balance their masculine and feminine energies. And then they get to a place where they're ready to activate their gifts. But the energies, this is the first time I've done it. The angels told me, this is what we're doing. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. But I did the first one of the true activation energies last Saturday, knocked me flat out. Like I slept the rest of the day. I slept through the whole night. It just knocked me out. And yeah. And so I just know when that happens, I gotta really take care of myself. And like I said, I have to take anything out of my field that is draining so that I have the energy to expand, to hold the energy, to hold the light. So it's a commitment. It's definitely a commitment. And I'm always working on my own healing.
Build the container and they will come.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah, living on a farm, growing your own fruits and vegetables. I think there's so much light that is associated with that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just funny how they are the light, right? They are light
Hmm.
and holds information, and then you eat more light, like vegetables and
Yeah.
fruits, and it just expands your capacity to hold more information. I think that's so fascinating.
Yeah,
Um,
it's totally true. It's so interesting. I heard just the other day. So you're right about the whole thing, like leafy greens, they photosynthesize, right? So they take light and they turn it into, so you're eating. And if you could, the more life force there is in your food, the more life force you're bringing. So that's why I want to grow the vegetables, because I can pick and eat within minutes. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm getting the maximum amount of life force into my body. But I heard just the other day that I never realized this, that textiles have different frequencies. So linen and wool vibrate at a much higher frequency than cotton. Cotton is like 100 hertz or something like that, and linen and wool were like 5,000 or something, like
really?
4,000, 3,000. Yeah, huge difference. Huge difference. And the interesting thing is, so I don't know much about religious texts. I was deliberately born into a family with no religious background at all. So I don't know much about the Bible or the Torah or any. So don't take my word on that. But I understand there is a passage in the Bible, because I heard this from the person who was talking about it, that says, do not mix linen and wool. And so, which is fascinating because they are at the same frequency, but they're different. It's almost and so they cancel each other out. So they both
Mm.
have magical properties, but not if you put them together, because then they're the exact same amount and they cancel each other out. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. Yeah, for sure.
So
It's
now
almost
I'm
like
like, what?
It's almost like binaural beats, like
Yes.
how
Yeah.
like the frequencies on the brain, like
Yeah.
they align and then get the brain to operate at a certain level. Yeah, it's so fascinating. I mean, frequency alone, I mean, it's just learning how to raise your vibration. Like, is there markers along your path, or do they speak about like when you start raising your frequency and vibration, because we are human beings and because I have a 4-second attention span now because of TikTok and all of the iPhone, like we want
Yeah.
things now, right? Like I want it now. I want, so do they ever talk about like the markers, like when you are on that path of like raising your frequency and vibration, like what starts to generate like in your field of vision, or like, your senses, that you can say, all right, I'm on the path. Let me just keep grinding here a little bit, and soon enough it will come to my reality.
Do you know, my first thing I was going to say is to watch your heart to see how you feel, but I also know many people who are deep into their journey who are having a really difficult time and who don't always feel happy and light. And I know that sometimes you'll be digging in on your path and you'll be doing all the work, and then you'll hit the dark night of the soul and it just knocks you on your butt. And so it's not always like being on a spiritual path does not always mean feeling happy, happy rainbows. It doesn't. It sometimes it means it is what it is more about is, are you fighting what you're feeling? Like it's one thing to feel, to have a lot of wounding coming up. It's one thing to feel depressed, right? Or to feel sad or lonely, but it's another thing to fight that feeling, to be in judgment of yourself because of that feeling. And so I'd say that is the marker, is where do you get to a place where you can be at peace with whatever is coming up. And it's not always going to be puppies. It's going to be crummy. But the more that you can, it's like we just have to remember that we are the doorway. And the more that we try to close the door on what's coming through, it's going to come through a lot slower with a lot more resistance. Like think about that. If you have a flood of like a dam, right? How much pressure is there behind a dam? And if you open it just a little bit, that pressure through there is enormous. Whereas if you just open and let it flow through, it just does its thing. It just flows. And you still have to let it flow. You still have to work through the stuff, but it just doesn't hurt so bad, and it doesn't
Mm.
take so long, and it doesn't dictate your life. It doesn't keep recreating itself over and over and over again. So I would say another thing I would say, a great marker someone can have about, so notice, I use my dreams all the time. I'm a huge fan of my dreams. If you have difficult stuff, and will be an easy one for lots of people, will dream about hotels. Super, super common dream. You're checking into a hotel, you're in a hotel room, you're in the hotel lobby. Every one of those dreams is about your birth. Every single one is about your birth. And we all have loads of wounding that is about our birth and about before we were born. And so every dream and what you want to focus on. So this will just be an easy thing. This is right here is a cheat sheet to get a jump start on your healing. Notice every dream you have about hotels and notice what you are feeling in those. Don't stress about, and notice that none of the stuff that you see in the dream is what it is. So if you see your brother in a dream, it's not your brother, it's an aspect of you. If you see your a child in the dream, it's not another child, it's not another person. If you see a friend in the dream is not about them, it's about you. It's about whatever aspect what personality trait do you associate with that friend? That is what you're dreaming about, and it's about yourself, always about yourself. Everything you see in the dream is you. So start with that major flip. Everything in the dream is you. Then and this is just as you'll be dreaming about all kinds of stuff. But if you have a hotel dreams, which everybody will, notice that is your birth. That is going to be key wounding. And then notice how you feel in that part. Do you feel like back before I knew what it was years ago, when I was just at the I was on the baby parts of my beginning journey of my own healing, when I was just waking up and starting to figure all this stuff out, I had night after night after night, I kept having dreams about hotels every night. And it was so frustrating. It was like every night I dreamt that I was trying to check into a hotel room and I was getting frustrated. Like for some reason I couldn't get in. I was trying to get upgraded to a nicer room, or there was something wrong with my room. One night I dreamt that I was checked into the hotel room, and it was a room that was solid glass. I could see through all the windows, but it was night, which is not good because I'm asleep. I'm in darkness. And I'm in a junk, the room is in a junk yard. Like I see dogs climbing over junk piles. Not a good dream at all, right? Like being born into a junkyard. And not that that's like my not to say that my mom's womb was a junkyard, because it wasn't. She was very healthy, but but my emotions at the time, I was born, my parents were having marital problems at the time of my birth. So so that was super evident in my dreams. And so what I did, and this is something anybody can do, is take what happened in your dream. Because so what I did, and I didn't even realize I was doing it at the time. It just seemed like I was just I was tired of being so frustrated in all my dreams. So before I went to sleep, I imagined myself checking into a hotel, but I re-scripted the whole dream. I imagined myself pulling up in this fabulous car, and I had in the back of the car, I had all these packages of all the beautiful gifts I had just bought for myself. And I had the manager, I owned the hotel in my dream. And the manager of the hotel comes sweeping out to help me. And people are bringing in on my gifts that I bought. And we're going up to the penthouse suite where I get to sleep because I own the hotel. And I generated all the feelings of like, oh, this is so wonderful and so easy. And I'm so welcome. And it's so fabulous. And immediately the dream stopped. Never had another dream about that. And so that is that working within the language of your dream is a healing process where you can heal yourself by re-scripting your dreams, focusing on the emotions and the feelings. So look for those hotel dreams. And so this is what you say, what are markers that you're making progress? Your dreams will shift. If you are having the same dream over and over, or you're having similar themes or similar feelings in dreams for multiple days, and then you work through those feelings, immediately the dreams will shift and they will start showing you something else. So your dreams are that's what I do in my soul convergence program, the deep trauma healing. People work with a dream analyst to be able to see their healing in their dreams. So they can track and see this is, oh, okay, I worked through that issue. Now I'm on the next one. Okay, I worked through that. Now I'm on the next one. Because we don't know. Otherwise, we're like, where am I in this journey? What am I doing? Did that help? Did that not help? It can be really frustrating.
Sure.
But I love using my dreams as a marker, as a way to track and understand what's happening, because it gives you evidence, it gives you proof that you're doing something right.
Sure. Yeah, I love all of that. I've never really had that perspective of like just realizing it's you because I've always had the idea with, oh, why am I dreaming about this person? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why in the world are they in my dream? So that's a great perspective to have because then it is like it's like an integration with yourself, or like healing the small child, or like integrating with that version of the person that you want, that you really admire out in external reality, like integrating with them on the inside and just healing that part of yourself, that aspect of yourself that yearns for that experience. Going back to the healing with your father with the knee, right? Like he,
Oh,
or
yeah.
holding that space of that timeline where he was healed. Like, what do you think of the mechanism is, right? Like of going after desire or manifestation or a dream or a goal, and you're trying to go like quantum leap into this different reality. Like, do you think it's the choice of going after that is actually the mechanism that draws that timeline to you? Like, what is that that is pulling it towards you?
I think that's a really good question. Like you're wondering, like, can I just bring that into my body now and accept that higher version of myself? And I would say, like, obviously it worked when I did it on my dad, except that he couldn't hold it, except that the core issue had not yet been healed. So you have to be in resonance. You have to heal the underlying wounds in order to do it. And so there's lots of different ways to heal. Like there's lots of different ways to shift that. But the biggest part is integration, is we have to bring it into our core. So it is really about trying to figure out where you are, and there is like Louise Hay's work around like the body is talking. Like I can't remember what it's called. She has a book that basically says, like, if your hips are sore, it's because you're afraid of moving forward in life. Same thing with your knees. So there's something that you're not moving forward in, that you're not. There's wisdom in that book for real. Like that will kind of give you a cheat sheet of like, if this particular part of your body aches, this is what your body is trying to tell you. And so you can look at that and say, okay, how can I address that wound? Then you are open to that kind of healing, bringing in a new reality, bringing in a shift. What we don't want to do is bypass. If we bypass, we're missing out on the whole reason why we came, right? The goal is not to heal your body. That's like, you're going to die some point. You're going to be free of the body. The body is only a temporary vessel. And I know you want to be comfortable right now, but if you heal it without listening to it, we miss the whole point. And all that pain that you've been through was for nothing. That the whole point is the body is trying to speak to you, and we have to listen. And if we don't take the time to listen, then there's no reason to come to earth at all, right? It's what's the point of the journey if we don't learn about ourselves?
Sure. And then speaking about timelines, like I watched a couple of your recent videos just to see, what you're up to, because I know you're doing, man, you're like the busiest person I know. You talked about like some of the visions that the angels have been giving you about our direct future here in this society, in this timeline with the
Yeah.
elections and everything like that that's going on. And you talked about like this massive light coming down. I have two questions here. Like one, like if someone, is there any way to not avoid, but like change timelines where I guess it's changing because you talked about a death of a leader and then like
Yeah.
the Trump like assassination attempt, maybe something changed there in that timeline. But like, I guess the question is like, if collectively we believe, we hear a prophecy and we collectively believe it, I mean, I think it strengthens that probability of that collapsing and then we experiencing that. But like, if I choose to say, all right, I'm not going to live in that timeline, I'm going to choose something different, like, can that
Hmm.
happen? And then two, um, I want to know about the light. Like, is that the angels coming in?
Yes, I love talking about it. Yeah, so yeah, do we have the ability to change some of these big events? And what the angels have said is that there's certain events where all of it, so see all time as now, and they see, and the way they describe their vision to me is they see it like, imagine like a bug's eyes, like a fly's eyes, where it's like 50 eyes, and I see it as like spinning hexagons that kind of spin and lock into place. And it's almost like we're in the center and there's all these spinning hexagons that have, each time it turns, it shows a different potential and a different reality. And as they get closer and closer to our hexagon, different ones will sort of lock in and become our new pathway and our new, what's happening, what ends up physicalizing. But out there's all these ones that are still rotating and might be this, might be that, right? They're still kind of coming into probability. But the angels have said there are certain events that are, it's just like with our life, before we come into form, before we incarnate, we will set a general idea for our life, but there will be certain things that are locked in place, that are unmovable. The people that you're meant to meet, the certain exchanges, certain moments where you're meant to wake up, like these things are like this, you're not going to miss. But the rest of it is very negotiable. So for example, you might say, I am going to, for this life, I want to make a living using my hands. So you could come into earth and you might say, okay, I'm going to go become a clay artist. I'm going to work with my hands by building pots and I'm going to become a potter. But you could also say, no, I'm going to be a farmer. I want to learn by growing things and working in the dirt with my hands, or a carpenter, right? You get to decide. You have tons of freedom about what we choose. But there are certain events that are going to be right there for you that you will have rehearsed. And I've seen this in my own dreams, where I had a dream where I was with one of my guides, where we're standing together and we're looking at the film of my life, the life that I was coming into, and we're looking at like a movie strip, and I'm looking at it frame by frame by frame, and we're trying to make one of these events, one of these things that cannot be changed. So what we do is we're playing that film back and forth and back and forth, and then I would jump into the film strip and I would act it out, and we would see what happened. And then I would jump out again and we would talk and we'd be like, okay, how did that go? What do you think? Did that get the result that we wanted? Was that the best way? And then we'd do it again, and I would jump in and we'd rehearse it over and over and over again. So that by the time you incarnate, like, when it happens, it's like you're just being pulled along. Like, you've rehearsed this so many times, it's gonna come out this way. So for humanity, there are certain events that are locked in, that are gonna happen. The flash of light is coming. That is a non-negotiable. The fall of many of our institutions, non-negotiable, because they have to. The earth herself, the whole shift in consciousness it's being driven by the earth. The earth is shifting. She is raising to a higher frequency. If we want to stay here, we have to rise too. So that's kind of where it all came from. But the flash of light, so in any case, but you're wondering, are there certain events that we can change? And you're totally right about, I wonder the same thing about Trump, like, because the angels did say, and it sure sounded like they were talking about Trump, that there would be that there would be a death. And then there's that assassination attempt. And I wonder, wow, was that it? Was that the end? Because it's an energy, and that energy could have been expressed. And there could have been a lot of people, praying for Trump, or who knows, whatever. Maybe it didn't hit him. And so maybe that might be, I mean, for his sake, I hope so. I wouldn't want anybody to end prematurely like that.
Sure, 100%.
But it would certainly then play out and have repercussions, and things would change. But the major things, the kind of stuff they said is like, yeah, we are going to have a big economic crash. There's going to be a big earth rift. There's going to be, and then the beautiful thing, the beautiful thing that everything is leading us to, is the flash of light.
Hmm. Can you
And
hit on that
that
real
is,
quick? Like with the flash of light, like will it be like a solar flare? Will it be like some type of crazy eclipse kind of thing? I don't know. I mean, I'm making things up at this point, but like, did they
yeah,
describe the event
yeah.
itself? And like, will there be an indication or like a heads up, like, hey man, here comes that light.
Yeah, it will my so it's what they've described as a rainbow starlight. It's a solar energy. But an interesting thing, right after they said that, people started seeing the aurora borealis as rainbows. So I think, which blew my mind because they've been describing it as a rainbow starlight. So I think it will be, and they said it will be like the biggest, like far bigger. And they told us before, like right before this big series of solar influxes we've been having from the sun, right before this happened, they told us, like literally the Friday before, they're like, you're going to have this increase in solar energy, and they said it'll last like through November, that we're going to be having a lot of this light come to the planet. But these are like baby steps. These are like warm-ups, getting us warmed up, just getting us loose, then the kapow, the big one comes, and it is huge. And they said it doesn't hurt anyone. It's not, it doesn't, it's not a like, it's not painful. What it does is it shifts our frequency dramatically in that time period. And the angels have given us multiple messages about what it's going to feel like, and they've been telling it to us from like every perspective. Basically, this is and we could talk about this for hours because it's quite complex and interesting what's going to happen. But they've told it from the perspective of our body, how our body's going to feel. They've told it from the perspective of the birth of our higher self from inside of us. They've talked about it from the perspective of the angels, how they're going to be guiding us and helping us through it. Basically, we go into like a cocoon state, like a suspended cocoon state, and then this higher aspect of us is birthed from within. And it's still us, same personality, same relationships, but it's just us in those higher frequencies. It's like we skip an octave. So we're still playing our same soul song. Now we've bumped up to a higher frequency, a higher octave. And but when it comes, and I believe, so it's associated with 3 days of darkness. And I have a little confusion about, there's the cocoon state, the suspended state that we go through. And then there's also the 3 days of darkness. And I don't know if those were one and the same thing. I think that there might be a period before the flash of light hits where things get dark. I think it's almost like, the slingshot we were talking about? It's almost like the energy pulls back and then goes boom, right? Comes in. And I don't know that for sure if that's how it happens. One side or the other, there's a period of darkness that we go through. But then I also know, there's also this cocoon state. So even if we get the 3 days of darkness on the front end, we are still going to go through the suspended cocoon state. And they talk about the biggest thing we got to do when this comes is that everybody, the light is available to everyone. It will carry us up the flight of steps, but it will not push us through the door. That we have to choose to go through the door. We make that choice at the higher self state to know if we're going to go on that path or not. And there is no judgment in that. There will be some souls that choose to stay in a 3D construct, in a karmic construct, because they feel like they can grow faster that way. They'll feel like they have unfinished business. And so they will live the rest of their life here, but they won't reincarnate here. They'll reincarnate in another planet that has been created for that purpose. But the way that we choose to go through is it's about being allowing. It's about being in love. They tell us this, when this happens, and that's why they're sharing the information for us. We're not meant to be in fear. We're meant to basically tune out the outer world, just go internal, pull down the shades, close the doors, get quiet inside, and try to stay focused on love. And they say at some point, our bodies will feel super heavy. We'll feel like, and remember I told you, like when they first came in, it was like my body got really heavy. Everything that is in us, which is all of our karmic constrictions that cannot move into this higher state, we will feel like we have a lead blanket on top of us. They said, when that happens, lay down and just rest. And then focus. You don't urge, don't work, just rest and allow, release, allow. And they said, so when you feel the heaviness, lay down and just chill, and they'll do the rest.
Wow.
But there's tons of descriptions about this if people want it. In the most recent videos, there's a series of them on my YouTube channel that to give very specific instructions about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of information, right? Like
Yeah, a
to
ton.
like sum it up in like a small conversation doesn't do
Yeah.
it justice, but like, yeah, for sure. Like that's cool. Like, so as a human being that comes from your background, like saying all these prophecies, like, is there any resistance to that? Like, do you feel like, oh my God, like now I'm, basically talking about this apocalypse that's coming or whatever, like this theme, how do you not generate fear with that?
Oh my gosh. Like, of course, like, yeah, like I said, the first time I started, and they, of course, gave me the worst messages first, I'm sure they were like, we got to get these out while she's open before she changes her mind. So they were just like, take another one and another one. And it was just like, oh my gosh, earth rift and economy and political, it was just like one thing after another. I just felt like that person on the street corner, the end is near. I did not want to be like, the last thing I wanted to do was share that information. And yeah, of course, because it's everything about this whole journey for me with the angels. Like, even just channeling the angels, that in the beginning, like, was hard to come out in public. And people know, like, that, like, how, like, what was the process you went through to then start with this podcast and do this
Sure.
work and be out there being like the guy that is the
Yeah.
new
I'm
age
still
guy.
losing people. Trust me, I'm still losing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, I don't think it ever
yeah,
stops. I just think they
yeah.
just don't. But I don't know if it's like if they're so here's a like not a question, but like an idea or a thought. Like, is it that that I'm really like losing friends, or is it that I'm totally moving into a different reality where I am just, they no longer exist at that level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you fall out of resonance with people, and you will find as you as you move to higher and higher frequencies, people that cannot be in your frequency will move out of your life. And so what that might look like sometimes is, yeah, you do, what relationships can expire because of it. And so what that might look like sometimes is you might have somebody who will try their hardest to pull you back down into their frequency, because that's where they can relate to you. So they'll try to pull you back into karmic relationship where they're going to keep trying to trigger you, keep trying to get that same reaction out of you, but you've healed it. You're not going to respond. And sometimes that's a beautiful thing where you heal your end of a karmic relationship, and all of a sudden the person will try to hit you and wait for you to hit back, and you don't. And it's like all of a sudden they wake up and they're like, oh my gosh, like, you behave differently. And then that the whole relationship can shift. So that's wonderful. And I've seen that. I've thousands of times I've seen that for people where they shift and then the other person all of a sudden shows up differently. And I see that literally all the time, and it's marvelous. But sometimes the other person's unwilling, and they will just keep trying to pull you back, like, trying to re-engage you because they can't let go. And so sometimes when that happens, they just sort of flow out of your life. But yeah,
Wow, surrender to that, right? Like, but what's the heck yes? Is it as far as following or making a choice in your reality, right? Like, I know you have like a little bit of a cheat sheet with the angels, but like for the average Joe like myself who get to speak to awesome people like yourself who have inside information, like, is it following the heart? And then when you make that decision, like, is it just like what is it about your heart, like that feeling of like, say you're in a relationship or in a job or whatever, where
yeah.
you just don't resonate with that anymore, and it's like really getting hard to be there. There's a lot of resistance, and so like you're trying to stay for whatever reason, but yet there's this pull towards something else. Like, how do you trust that? Like, what's the feeling in the heart that says, go ahead, get after it, do this thing?
Yeah, it is. That is such a great question, because you're right that like, and the angels have asked me to make some really, really hard decisions in my life. Like, I had to leave a really, really great career in order to become the angel person. Like, they've asked me to leave marriages. They've asked me to leave, like, big stuff, big stuff. They've asked me to multiple times to give up my main source of income, for they would not tell me what. Multiple times where they've asked me, jump off the cliff and then just trust we're going to catch you. Yeah, we're here. I know you can't see us. We're right here. Just jump and see what happens. You're going to love it.
Okay, real quick, I want to
And
interject here. So I don't mean to interrupt, but like, so you hear the angels in a voice or like however you hear them, but for people that don't hear them, how do they know? How do they know what they should be doing? Like, take off,
yeah,
jump off the cliff, take the leap of faith. Like,
yep,
what is
yeah,
that? Do they follow the heart, or like what is the indicator for
yeah.
them to take that step?
So the biggest thing is to separate out, to make sure that you're listening, because so many of us will make choices from fear, is that we will think this is the smart thing to do. For example, I'm going to stay in my current career and until I line something else up, so that I know because that's the smart thing to do. That's what we're told we're meant to do. You got to line the next thing up before you jump. Like, that's the smart money. That's what we're conditioned. And that's a choice made from fear, not from the heart. And so for example, if I was to tell you right now, how do you navigate from the heart? If I was to say, okay, was there any decision that you are meant to choose right now? Say, for example, if you're trying to go on vacation and you were said, should I go to Hawaii or the Bahamas? And so I would ask you to just close your eyes and just to think about Hawaii and to feel, what does Hawaii feel like to you? And to stay positive feelings only, stay out of fear, stay out of any negativity, go into, do I feel any joy about that? Does it sound, where is it, and can I hold the joy frequency about that? And then same thing on the Bahamas. So whichever one you feel the most joy in, your heart is telling you this is going to be a better choice. You are going to have more fun, things are going to be smoother, it's going to work out better. It cannot be driven by fear. It cannot be, should I win the lottery? I feel joy when I think about the lottery. Because what we're feeling excitement about release from our fear. So really be clear about where is fear pushing you, and are you trying to escape? We can't escape. We have to focus on leaning into positivity, leaning into the flow of where joy is taking us, not away from fear. And so that's the discernment we have to evolve and develop. So if you feel so for myself, I will do that with every part of my business. I go through my work regularly, like at least once a year, if not twice a year. And every time a program ends, I will feel into it and I will say, what about this is bringing me joy? What about this is starting to feel heavy? What part of this do I feel like is not feeding me? And it doesn't even have to be, it can be a thing literally where it's like, well, I'm just not finding as much joy in this. I've done it. I'm not learning as much. I would like a change. So then I will change that or eliminate that or drop that off. And I will focus on the things where I'm finding excitement and joy, and it feeds me and it makes me feel alive. Like if you just use that one tool, you are listening to your angels. You're listening. And really what you're listening to is your higher self. Your higher
Mm.
self is speaking to you and flowing through you. And it's about really trying to tune into in every single choice. Do I feel free? Think about mother creation. Do I feel free to express myself? Do I feel renewed by this energy? You are a doorway. You are not static. You are a flow of energy. So how can you open up to more and more energy? Is finding more freedom, more flow by leaning into, when I go this direction, it's scary, right? It's scary because I don't know what's going to happen. But when I think about it, I feel a quickening in my body, right? It feels like my cells are more alive. It feels like, gosh, if that would work out, I would be so excited, right? Like that, just like that, oh my gosh, like there's a breathlessness that starts to come through you, like, okay, I'm willing to take the risk. And then how do we do it? Where's the fear? Well, think about your whole life. When have you ever been dropped off a cliff and allowed to hit the ground? Like, have you ever lost everything and been out on the street? And even if you did, you're still alive. You're still here. You are in some place where you are safe enough to be watching this interview with Trey. You are somewhere where you are all right. And so the truth of the matter is you can jump, and yeah, things will change. Like the angels told me when I left, like I had to leave a marriage, and they told me, you'll be so much happier. It will be so great. You should do this. You will feel alive and lighter and brighter. And I left and I felt like crud. Like it was terrible. But 2 years later, I felt amazing. So they don't have time. So that is something we got to cut them a little slack. Like it's not like you're going to do a thing and it's going to work out immediately, but you just got to keep leaning in and trusting. If you keep following your heart, it is so much about just keep showing up, just keep showing up. And if you do, like, how did I make it to the point where now I'm out in the world and I'm able to share my gifts and do this work? And I do this full time, and I get to have an impact on a lot of people in this world. And that fills me like nothing I can describe. And it's just because I keep showing up.